Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're kind of time traveling, to Minneapolis.
Right.
We've got a whole stack of articles, historical accounts, even some maps, personal notes,
Wow.
trying to figure out what makes this city tick.
Yeah,
It's going to be like your cheat sheet, to understanding Minneapolis
that's a great way to put it.
from its beginnings to, all the hustle and bustle of today.
We'll explore how Minneapolis grew
I mean,
from
from like a tiny little place.
what was called Bre de Oda Othufwe by the Dakota people.
Broad Oda Othuwe,
That means many lakes town.
Any Lakes town. I love that.
To this major metropolis we see today.
Right, and it's got these architectural gems, this unique street system, and even some pretty legendary sports moments.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to those.
Okay, so let's start with the name Minneapolis itself.
Yeah.
It's not every day you see Dakota and Greek words all blended together.
Right.
What's the story there?
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating fusion. Minneapolis combines the Dakota word mini for water with the Greek polis for city.
Water City.
Exactly. And it really captures the essence of the city, built as it is around St. Anthony Falls, the only natural waterfall on the Mississippi River.
Oh, wow, the only one.
Yeah.
So Water City it is.
Uh-huh.
But, as we get into the history, it's clear that water wasn't the only thing shaping Minneapolis.
Right.
The arrival of European settlers in the 1800s brought a wave of change.
Yeah.
And not all of it was good, right?
You're right. Unfortunately, treaties were signed with the Dakota people, but they were often broken,
Yeah.
leading to rising tensions and ultimately the Dakota War of 1862.
Oh, wow.
This war had a devastating impact.
Yeah.
It resulted in the forced removal of the Dakota from their ancestral lands and a very tragic chapter in U.S. history,
Oh, God.
the largest mass execution ever carried out.
Oh, my goodness.
And this history of displacement is essential to understanding the city's present-day challenges with racial equity.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's a tough reminder, that progress isn't always pretty. But moving into the late 1800s, Minneapolis went through this period of really rapid growth.
Yeah.
Became this huge industrial center. I'm guessing St. Anthony Falls played a big part in all that.
Absolutely. That waterfall was a game changer. Its powerful currents were harnessed to power flour mills, sawmills, lumber mills,
Wow.
turning Minneapolis into a really bustling hub of industry.
And I read that it even earned the nickname Mill City.
Yes, for its flour production prowess. At
Yes.
one point, it was the largest flour producer in the world.
That's incredible.
It is.
But like we've seen, throughout history, growth often comes with challenges.
Right.
What were some of the growing pains that Minneapolis had during this time?
Well, for one, the huge influx of workers from different backgrounds led to social tension, issues like corruption and discrimination, even the presence of the Ku Klux Klan.
No way.
Yeah, for a short time in the 1920s, it really cast a shadow over the city's progress.
Wow.
And you also had labor unrest, economic struggles, and even notorious figures like the gangster Kid Can all added to the mix.
It sounds like it was a time of both opportunity and turmoil.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Did the city ever find its footing amidst all this change?
It did, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
In the mid-20th century, Minneapolis went through these major urban renewal projects.
Oh, really?
While these aimed to modernize the city, they also led to people being displaced, particularly in an area called Skid Row.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It was a neighborhood known for poverty and homelessness.
Right.
The construction of the I-35W highway further changed the urban landscape.
Okay.
It physically divided communities and contributed to urban sprawl.
It seems like progress isn't always a straight line.
That's very true.
Now, I'm really interested in downtown Minneapolis.
Okay.
It's where so much of the city's history happened. What kind of architectural and cultural landmarks are there today?
Downtown Minneapolis is a cool mix of old and new. You'll find these beautifully renovated theaters like the Orpheum State and Pantages.
Oh, yeah.
They offer a glimpse into the city's entertainment past.
And what about those really cool skyscrapers?
You have structures like the Fache Tower,
Yes.
a soaring Art Deco masterpiece that was once the tallest building in the city.
I've seen pictures of the Fache Tower. It's so glamorous.
Yeah, it's got that classic 1920s look.
It's like a building with a story to tell.
It definitely does. It was built by Wilbur Fache, an ambitious businessman.
Okay.
He was inspired by the Washington Monument. It speaks to the ambition and optimism of that era.
And it's such a recognizable part of the Minneapolis skyline.
Yeah, it's a true icon.
Now, when I think about downtown, I also think about all the busy streets and neighborhoods.
Right.
Each one with its own personality.
Uh-huh.
I bet Minneapolis's street names have some pretty interesting stories behind them.
Oh, you're right about that.
I mean, how often do you see a city with avenues named after both a Dakota chief and a Greek goddess?
That's a good point.
Uh,
Minneapolis's street names are like a treasure map,
A treasure map.
leading you through its past. Some are named after important people, like Nicollet Avenue, honoring the explorer Joseph Nicollet, who mapped the region in the 1830s.
I see.
Others, like Hennepin Avenue, are named after explorers like Father Louis Hennepin,
Okay.
who documented St. Anthony Falls, forever linking his name to the city.
Wow, it's crazy how a street sign can have so much history.
I know, it's amazing, right?
Makes you want to walk those streets and imagine all the people and events that made them.
Yeah, you can really feel the history.
But before we hit the pavement, I got to ask about something that's close to the hearts of many sports fans.
Okay.
Minneapolis Lakers.
Yeah. The Lakers' time in Minneapolis is a story of both triumph and heartbreak.
It is.
They were such a powerhouse in the early NBA, led by the one and only George Mikan,
Oh, yeah.
winning 5 championships in 6 seasons.
Wow, 5 championships.
Yeah, it was an incredible run.
But even with all that success, they faced financial challenges.
That's right.
They were winning championships and still struggling financially.
It's hard to believe.
How is that even possible?
Well, it comes down to market size. Minneapolis was still a small market in the world of pro sports.
I see.
The team struggled to make enough money to stay afloat,
Oh, no.
ultimately leading to them moving to Los Angeles in 1960.
Ah, man, that must have been devastating for the city and its fans.
It was a tough time for sure.
I mean, losing a team, especially one as good as the Lakers, is like losing a piece of yourself.
It is, yeah.
It really is.
But, the memory of the Lakers and their impact on the sport is still a source of pride for many in Minneapolis.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, and thankfully, the city eventually got a new NBA team,
Yeah.
the Minnesota Timberwolves, in 1989.
Right. Bringing back that love for basketball.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've got amazing waterfalls, booming industries, grand theaters, even a legendary basketball team.
Right.
But I think it's time to talk about a more serious side of Minneapolis.
Okay.
Its struggle with racial inequality.
Yeah, that's an important part of the city's story.
Our sources show these deep-seated inequalities that have affected communities of color for generations.
That's true.
It's a reminder that even in a city's progress, there are often hidden stories of struggle and injustice.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So where do we even start unpacking this complex issue?
Well, let's go back to the foundation of many Minneapolis neighborhoods.
Okay.
Their housing.
Housing.
For decades, racially restrictive covenants were part of property deeds.
And those.
They prohibited people of color from buying or even living in certain areas.
Wait, so there were actual documents saying people of color couldn't live in certain parts of the city?
It's a dark chapter in Minneapolis's history, but yes, it's true.
That's unthinkable today.
I know.
Wow.
These covenants were everywhere and had a terrible impact on communities of color,
Right.
limiting their access to housing, education, and economic opportunities.
And what's even crazier is that even though these things are illegal now,
Yeah,
their effects are still being felt today.
that's right.
But how, if they're not legal, how can they still be affecting people?
Imagine generations of families being denied the chance to build wealth through owning homes in good neighborhoods.
Oh.
This created a huge wealth gap that still exists today, impacting everything from education and healthcare to jobs and quality of life. It's a domino effect.
Wow.
The effects of discrimination keep rippling through generations.
It sounds like a really difficult problem to solve.
It is a deeply ingrained issue.
What's being done in Minneapolis to address these systemic problems?
There's the Mapping Prejudice Project.
Okay, what's that?
It uses digital tools to find and map where those racial covenants were.
Oh.
It sheds light on how widespread this practice was and the impact it still has.
So it's like making those invisible walls that once divided the city visible.
Exactly. It makes the history real and impossible to ignore.
And what do they do with this information?
Well, raising awareness is one thing, but this data can also help inform policy decisions and guide efforts to get rid of these systemic barriers.
Right. So it's about understanding the root of the problem.
Exactly, to create real and lasting change.
It's a powerful reminder that even in a city known for progressive values, there's always more work to be done to make sure everyone has equity and justice.
You're absolutely right.
Are there any other things happening in Minneapolis to tackle these issues?
Yes, there are.
Like what?
The city's 2040 plan aims to address a lot of issues with a big focus on dismantling systems that perpetuate racial disparities.
Okay.
It's about creating a more equitable and inclusive city by tackling things like affordable housing, transportation, and access to resources.
That sounds pretty comprehensive.
It is. It acknowledges that real progress needs a multifaceted approach.
I see.
And on top of the 2040 plan, Minneapolis declared racism a public health emergency in 2020.
Oh, wow.
This acknowledges the huge impact of racism on the well-being of communities of color,
Right.
and it shows the city's dedication to fixing racial health disparities.
It sounds like Minneapolis is taking real steps to confront its past and build a more equitable future. It's a reminder that even with challenges, there's always hope for progress.
I agree with that.
When there's a commitment to action and change.
Yeah, action is key.
Now, I want to explore those iconic landmarks that dot the Minneapolis landscape,
Sounds good.
from its bridges to its parks and architectural gems.
Okay, where should we start?
Okay, well, we've talked about the land of 10,000 lakes, but what specific ones should we check out?
Let's start with the Stone Arch Bridge.
Okay.
It really represents both the city's industrial heritage and its dedication to repurposing spaces.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Picture this, a massive stone structure.
Okay.
Graceful arches spanning the Mississippi River.
Wow.
It's like a monument to 19th century engineering.
I bet.
It was originally a railroad bridge to transport goods from the mills along the riverbanks.
So it played a big part in the city's economic growth.
Absolutely. It was a symbol of Minneapolis's industrial power.
Wow.
But today it's been beautifully repurposed into a pedestrian and bicycle pathway.
Oh, cool.
It offers these amazing views of the city skyline and the river below.
What a cool example of mixing history with modern use.
It is, right?
It's like a bridge between eras,
Yeah.
connecting the city's past and present.
I like that.
And speaking of bridges, we can't forget about the Hennepin Avenue Bridge.
Right, another icon of the city.
It's that beautiful bridge with those distinctive towers and arches.
You got it built in the early 1900s, a stunning example of Beaux-Arts architecture.
So elegant.
Yeah, it was a busy route for horse-drawn carriages back in the day.
Wow.
It even had a streetcar line at one point.
No way.
And now it stands as a symbol of the city's elegance and how it's changed over time.
I can only imagine all the stories that bridge could tell.
It's seen a lot of history.
It really has.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about bridges. What about the buildings that really define the Minneapolis skyline?
Right.
We already mentioned the Fauché Tower.
Yeah.
But what other architectural gems should we explore?
Well, we can't forget about the Weizmann Art Museum.
Okay.
It's on the University of Minnesota campus.
Oh, cool.
Designed by world-renowned architect Frank Gehry.
Wait, Frank Gehry designed a building in Minneapolis. Wow. I've seen his work in other cities, like the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain. His buildings are so unique and sculptural.
They are.
I love them.
And the Weizmann Art Museum is no different.
Cool.
It's this stunning stainless steel structure that shimmers and reflects the light,
I can picture it.
almost like a giant abstract sculpture.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see pictures.
I-
Okay, so we've got bridges, towers, and a Frank Gehry building. What else should we add to our architectural tour of Minneapolis?
Let's not forget about the city's industrial past.
Right, of course.
The Mill City Museum is housed in the ruins of the Washburn Mill.
Oh, wow.
It gives you a look into the world of flour production and how it shaped Minneapolis.
A museum in the ruins of a mill.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I can already picture the exposed brick and the old machines.
It's a really unique and interesting way to experience history,
I bet.
mixing interactive exhibits with authentic pieces of the past.
Awesome. Okay, so we've explored some of the city's most famous landmarks. Now I think it's time to head outdoors
Sounds good.
and see the natural beauty that surrounds Minneapolis.
Okay.
We've talked about the land of 10,000 lakes.
Right.
But what specific watery wonders should we explore?
Within the city itself, the chain of lakes is a true gem.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Imagine a bunch of interconnected lakes, each with its own personality,
Okay.
all linked by parkways and trails that wind through these beautiful landscapes.
So peaceful.
It is.
I'm picturing sailboats, kayakers, families having picnics. It sounds like the perfect escape from the city.
The chain of lakes offers something for everyone, whether you want adventure, relaxation, or just to be in nature.
It's amazing that this natural oasis is right in the city.
Yeah.
It shows how dedicated Minneapolis is to keeping its green spaces
Right.
and giving its people a balance between urban life and nature.
Exactly. And speaking of nature, we can't forget about Minnehaha Park,
Oh yes, Minnehaha Falls.
home to the iconic Minnehaha Falls.
It's one of those names that just makes you think of waterfalls and beauty.
It is.
Right.
Minnehaha Falls is a sight to see. The water plunges over a rocky ledge into this picturesque gorge.
Wow.
The park itself is a great escape with hiking trails, picnic areas, and even this old restaurant from the late 1800s.
Wow. I'm adding that to my list.
You should. It's great.
So it sounds like a perfect place to spend a summer afternoon,
Yeah.
surrounded by the sounds of nature. But I bet Minneapolis's dedication to green spaces goes beyond just a few parks and lakes.
Of course it does.
Right.
Minneapolis has a huge park system. It's like a green tapestry throughout the city.
That's so cool.
It shows how forward-thinking the early city planners were. They understood how important nature is for people's well-being.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's not just about having a few parks scattered around. It's about creating this network of green spaces that connect communities.
Exactly, and make life better for everyone.
And that vision is still benefiting Minneapolis today. It's like a model for other cities that are trying to balance development with preserving nature.
Yeah, other cities could definitely learn from Minneapolis.
I love that. It reminds us that a city can be a thriving metropolis and a haven for nature lovers at the same time.
Yeah, it really can be both.
Okay, so we've covered some of the city's most iconic landmarks.
Yeah.
It's time to head outdoors
Right.
and discover the natural beauty that surrounds Minneapolis.
All right.
I think it's time to pause for a second and think about everything we've learned about Minneapolis.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
We've explored the city's history, its iconic landmarks, its struggles with racial injustice, and its commitment to nature.
We have.
But I have a feeling there's still so much more to discover.
There is.
What other sides of Minneapolis are we going to delve into?
Well, there's this whole other side of Minneapolis that's waiting to be explored. Its vibrant arts and culture scene, its thriving music venues, its diverse food scene, and its unique neighborhoods.
You're right. We haven't even talked about food yet.
We haven't, and there's so much to say about it.
Okay. I'm excited to dive into all of that.
Oh.
It sounds like we're just scratching the surface of what makes Minneapolis so special.
We are. There's so much more to uncover.
I can't wait.
Me too. Welcome back to our deep dive into Minneapolis. We just explored some of the city's most iconic landmarks and parks. Now let's zoom in on those bustling city streets
Yeah, let's hit the pavement.
and uncover some of the hidden stories they hold.
Okay.
We talked earlier about how street names can be like a treasure map,
Right.
leading us through a city's past.
A treasure map. I love that.
Where should we start our exploration?
I'm ready.
Let's head back to downtown and focus on the Mill District,
Okay.
an area that's really steeped in industrial history. As you might guess, many of the streets here are named after the people and industries that shaped this part of the city.
Okay. I'm picturing cobblestone streets, old brick buildings, maybe even some remnants of those massive mills we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
What kind of street names are we going to find here?
Well, you can't miss Washburn Avenue,
Okay.
named after Cadwallader Washburn,
Okay.
one of the big names in the flour milling industry.
Right.
And just a few blocks away, you'll find Pillsbury Avenue, honoring his rival Charles Pillsbury. It's almost like their entrepreneurial rivalry is still playing out street by street.
That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of a historical showdown immortalized in the city's grid.
It really is.
Yeah.
What other street names give us clues to the Mill District's past?
Keep an eye out for 2nd Street.
Okay.
It might not sound that exciting,
Right.
but it was once a bustling thoroughfare for workers going to and from the mills.
I see.
Imagine the clatter of horse-drawn wagons, the air thick with the scent of grain and the sounds of machinery all day and night.
Wow, I can almost hear it.
Yeah, you can really feel the history come alive.
It's amazing how a street name can just transport you back in time.
It really is. It's like conjuring up images of a bygone era.
I know. As we move beyond the Mill District and venture into other neighborhoods, the street names continue to reveal layers of the city's identity.
They really do.
Okay, so where to next? What other neighborhoods have street names that offer a glimpse into the different communities that make up Minneapolis?
Let's head over to Cedar Riverside, a neighborhood known for its vibrant Somali community.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
It's a place where cultures blend and traditions are kept alive, even as the city changes around them.
It's so cool how different cultures can shape a city.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I've heard Cedar Riverside is a real cultural hub, a place where you can experience a little slice of Somalia in the heart of Minneapolis. I'm excited to see what stories the street names tell us there.
One of the main streets in Cedar Riverside is Cedar Avenue, of course. But within the Somali community, it's often called Somali Mall
Oh, really?
because of all the Somali-owned businesses there.
That's awesome.
It really shows the community's entrepreneurial spirit and their impact on the neighborhood.
So you have the official name on the map, Cedar Avenue, and then you have the name that reflects how people actually experience it, Somali Mall.
Right.
It's like two different layers of meaning.
Exactly. It shows how different groups can shape a place and create their own sense of belonging within a larger city.
It's like each street name is a thread woven into the fabric of the city,
I like that.
telling a story about its past, its present, and the people who have made it what it is today.
That's a beautiful way to put it. As we walk these streets, it's worth taking a moment to appreciate the layers of meaning in the urban landscape.
I agree.
The stories whispered by each street sign.
I love that. Now, speaking of stories and names that are etched in Minneapolis's history, I think it's time we revisit the legacy of the Minneapolis Lakers.
Oh yeah, the Lakers.
Earlier, we talked about their amazing success in the early NBA and their sad departure from the city.
Right. It's a bittersweet story.
It is. But I'd love to know more about what made them such a dominant force in basketball.
The Minneapolis Lakers really captured the spirit of a city on the rise.
I bet.
Their story begins in 1947,
Okay.
a pivotal year for both the Lakers and basketball itself.
Oh, wow. Why is that?
That's when they joined the newly formed Basketball Association of America,
Oh,
which would later become the NBA.
so they were there at the very beginning.
They were.
Wow. Witnessing the birth of what would become the biggest basketball league in the world.
It was a time of incredible excitement and possibility, a chance to shape the future of the game.
I can't even imagine what that must have been like.
And the Lakers definitely made their mark.
They did.
Largely thanks to the arrival of a towering figure, both literally and figuratively, George Mikan.
Ah, yes, George Mikan. The name is legendary. Even someone like me, who's not a diehard basketball fan, has heard tales of his dominance on the court.
What made him so good?
Well, at 6'10",
Wow.
Mikan was a giant among men in those early days of the NBA. He
Right.
dominated the game,
He did.
revolutionizing the center position with his incredible skill and athleticism.
I bet.
He was a scoring machine, a rebounding powerhouse, and a defensive wall.
It sounds like he was rewriting the rules of the game.
He was a true game changer,
No wonder he's considered one of the pioneers of professional basketball.
and his impact on the Lakers was immediate and undeniable. Led by Mikan, the team won 5 championships in 6 seasons,
Wow, 5 championships in 6 seasons.
establishing a dynasty that cemented Minneapolis's place in basketball history. That's an incredible run. No wonder their legacy still resonates with fans even today, even though the team left decades ago.
It's a testament to their impact on the sport.
It really is. Their departure must have been a huge blow to the city.
It was a difficult time for sure. But the Lakers' time in Minneapolis left a mark on both the sport and the city itself.
That's good.
Their story reminds us that even with challenges and change, passion and dedication can create moments of greatness that last.
I love that. And speaking of challenges, I think it's time we talk more about Minneapolis's ongoing struggle with structural racism
Right.
and its impact on communities of color.
Yeah, that's an important part of the city's story.
We've touched on this throughout our deep dive,
We have.
from the displacement of the Dakota people to the lasting effects of racially restrictive housing covenants.
Right, those are just a few examples.
But I'd like to explore this issue further to really understand how these past injustices continue to shape the city today.
It's a complex issue with deep roots.
It is. While Minneapolis has a reputation for being progressive, it's important to acknowledge that this progress hasn't always reached everyone equally.
That's true.
We've seen how deep-seated inequalities have impacted communities of color for generations,
Yeah, unfortunately.
from differences in wealth and homeownership to unequal access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities.
Right, it's a systemic problem.
It's a complex issue with roots that run deep.
It is.
Ah.
And to really understand these complexities, we need to look deeper than the surface
Okay,
and explore the systems that have kept these disparities going over time.
I'm listening.
We need to look at things like redlining discriminatory lending practices and the legacy of segregation.
Redlining.
Mhm.
I've heard that term before, but I'm not really sure what it means. Can you explain it?
Sure, redlining was a practice used by banks and other financial institutions
Okay.
to deny loans and other services to people in certain neighborhoods,
Oh, wow.
mainly those with lots of Black and minority residents.
So it wasn't just about individual acts of discrimination. It was built into the system.
Exactly. These were systemic practices embedded in the very institutions that were supposed to be serving everyone equally.
That's awful.
And the impact of redlining was devastating. It stopped communities of color from getting the money they needed to build businesses, buy homes, and invest in their neighborhoods.
Wow.
It created a cycle of poverty and disinvestment that still affects communities today.
It's a stark reminder of how institutionalized racism can have such long-lasting consequences,
Right?
shaping the very landscape of a city and the opportunities people have.
You're absolutely right. And this is why it's so important to understand these historical practices. By acknowledging the roots of these disparities, we can start to dismantle the systems that perpetuate them.
I completely agree. What are some of the ways that Minneapolis is trying to address these systemic issues and create a more equitable future for all its residents?
Yeah.
We've talked about initiatives like the Mapping Prejudice Project and the 2040 Plan, but are there other things happening?
Yes, there are.
Like what?
One of the most important is the city's focus on investing in communities that have been historically marginalized.
Okay.
This means putting resources into affordable housing, community development, and support for minority-owned businesses.
So it's about more than just acknowledging the problem. It's about taking action.
Exactly. It's about investing in people, creating opportunities, and fostering a sense of hope and possibility for all residents.
I love that. It's an ongoing journey and there's always more to do.
There is.
But it's encouraging to see a city actively trying to create a more just and equitable future for everyone.
It is a reminder that progress is possible even in the face of really tough challenges.
Now, speaking of progress and change, I'd love to explore the creative energy that flows to Minneapolis.
Okay, sounds good.
I know the city has a reputation for being a hub for arts and culture,
It is,
with all sorts of offerings that cater to all tastes.
which is something for everyone.
Where should we begin our exploration of this vibrant scene?
Let's start with the visual arts, specifically at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, often called MIA.
Mia, I've heard it's an incredible museum
It is.
with a collection that spans centuries and continents.
It's a true treasure trove of artistic expression.
It must be amazing to wander through those galleries and see such a wide range of artistic styles and perspectives.
It really is. You'll find everything from ancient Egyptian artifacts and Renaissance masterpieces to contemporary installations and modern art.
Yeah.
It's a place where you can get lost in the creativity of human expression and always discover something new.
Now, for someone like me, who might be a little intimidated by the world of high art, what would you say is the must-see piece at Mia?
That's a tough one.
I know, right?
There's so much to see.
There is.
But if I had to pick just one, I'd say you can't miss the ancient Chinese jade collection.
Really?
It's truly breathtaking.
Okay, that's going on my list.
Yeah.
Now, what about for someone who's looking for a more modern and playful art experience?
Okay.
Where should they go?
Well, you can't go wrong with the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden.
Wait up.
It's right next to the Walker Art Center and features a bunch of whimsical and thought-provoking sculptures set against all this greenery.
Ah, the sculpture garden. I've seen pictures of that giant spoon with the cherry.
That's the one. It's called Spoonbridge and Cherry.
Spoonbridge and cherry. I love it.
And it's become a real icon of the city.
It has.
The Sculpture Garden is a fantastic place to experience art in a more relaxed and interactive setting.
It sounds like the perfect blend of art and nature. Okay, so we've got museums and gardens covered. Now, I'm curious about the performing arts scene in Minneapolis. What kind of theater can we find there?
Minneapolis has a really vibrant theater scene,
I bet.
with a diverse range of venues offering everything from Broadway hits to experimental productions.
So it's something for every taste and preference.
There really is. What are you in the mood for?
I'm not sure yet. But what venues would you recommend for someone looking to experience the best of Minneapolis theater?
Well, if you're looking for a truly grand experience,
Okay.
you can't miss the Guthrie Theater.
The Guthrie.
It's a landmark institution housed in a stunning building that juts out over the Mississippi River.
The Guthrie, I've heard their productions are top-notch,
They are.
with world-class talent and innovative staging. And their building sounds incredible, too.
It is. The Guthrie is an architectural marvel,
I bet.
with its signature cantilevered lobby offering these breathtaking views of the city.
Wow.
And inside, you'll find multiple stages and state-of-the-art facilities designed to showcase the best of theater.
It sounds like an experience that goes beyond just seeing a play.
It does.
It's about immersing yourself in a world of creativity and storytelling.
Exactly. Now, beyond the Guthrie, are there other theaters in Minneapolis that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Absolutely. For a more intimate and experimental theater experience,
Okay.
I'd recommend checking out the Jumble Theater.
Okay.
They're known for their thought-provoking productions and their commitment to showcasing diverse voices and perspectives.
I love that. It's great to hear about a theater that's pushing boundaries and challenging conventions.
They're doing great work. Now, speaking of pushing boundaries and challenging conventions, I think it's time we delve into Minneapolis's legendary music scene.
Yes, let's talk about music.
We can't talk about Minneapolis without acknowledging its rich musical heritage.
We can't.
This is a city that's produced some of the most iconic and influential musicians of all time.
Okay, give me some names. Who are the artists that have put Minneapolis on the musical map?
Well, we have to start with Prince.
Of course, Prince, a true legend.
He was a true musical visionary, a multi-instrumentalist, singer-songwriter, and producer who redefined pop music and created a sound that was uniquely his own.
And he was born and raised in Minneapolis?
He was! And his spirit is still all over the city's music scene. His recording studio complex, Paisley Park, is just outside the city.
Right.
And has become a pilgrimage site for fans from around the world.
I've heard Paisley Park is an incredible place.
It is.
A museum where you can experience the magic of Prince's creative world.
It's a testament to his enduring legacy.
It really is. And beyond, Prince Minneapolis has been home to so many other musical talents.
So many.
Who else should we add to our Minneapolis music playlist?
Well, if you're into alternative rock, you have to check out The Replacements.
Okay.
They were pioneers in the genre, known for their raw energy and introspective lyrics.
Oh, and who else?
And then there's Husker Du, another influential band that came out of the Minneapolis punk rock scene in the 1980s.
It sounds like Minneapolis has a rebellious streak when it comes to music.
It does.
Yeah.
The city embraces experimentation and pushes boundaries, and that's reflected in its music.
I love that. The legacy of these bands must inspire new generations of musicians who are making their mark on the city's ever-evolving music scene.
It definitely does. There's always something new happening in Minneapolis music.
I'm imagining those legendary clubs where these bands got their start.
Oh, yeah.
Places with sticky floors and walls covered in band posters.
You're thinking of First Avenue?
First Ave.
A true Minneapolis institution. It's a legendary music venue that's hosted countless iconic performers over the years, from Prince and the Replacements to Lizzo and the Hold Steady.
First Avenue, I've seen pictures. It's the club with all the stars on the wall, right?
That's the one. Each star represents a band that's played at First Avenue, a testament to the club's history and its role as a launching pad for musical careers.
Wow, it sounds like First Avenue is more than just a club.
It is.
It's like a living, breathing chronicle of Minneapolis's musical journey.
Exactly. And it's still a vital part of the city's music scene, hosting a diverse range of artists, from local up-and-comers to internationally acclaimed acts.
So if you want to experience the heart and soul of Minneapolis music, First Avenue is the place to be.
It's the place to be. Now we've explored art, theater, and music.
We have. Sounds like Minneapolis has so much to offer.
It does. I'm getting a sense of the incredible depth and breadth of Minneapolis's cultural offerings, but I feel like we're missing a key ingredient in any vibrant city experience.
What's that?
Food.
Oh, yes, of course, food.
We can't forget about the food. Minneapolis has a diverse and delicious food scene,
I bet.
with influences from around the world, a thriving craft beer scene, and a dedication to farm-to-table dining. That's really impressive.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. I'm always up for exploring a city's food scene.
Me too.
Tell me more about what makes Minneapolis unique in the culinary world.
Well, for starters, Minneapolis embraces both its Midwestern culinary roots and its increasingly diverse population.
Okay.
You'll find everything from traditional comfort food like Juicy Lucy burgers and wild rice hot dish
Yeah.
to innovative fusion cuisine and a vibrant food truck scene.
Oh, wow. So much variety.
There is. So what are you in the mood for?
It's hard to choose.
I know, right?
But what really sets Minneapolis apart is its focus on local and sustainable ingredients.
Right. They have a strong farm-to-table movement with many restaurants sourcing their produce and meats from nearby farms.
So fresh.
And the city's numerous farmers markets are a testament to that commitment, offering a bounty of fresh, locally grown goodness.
Okay. You've convinced me Minneapolis is officially on my list of foodie cities to visit.
It should be.
I can't wait to sample all the delicious offerings. Now, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious to get your overall impression of Minneapolis. We've explored so much,
We have.
from its history and its iconic landmarks to its struggles with social injustice and its vibrant arts and culture scene.
It's been a journey.
What stands out to you as the essence of this city?
You know what's fascinating about Minneapolis is that it's a city that's constantly evolving and reinventing itself.
That's true.
It's a place where history is honored but not held captive,
Yeah.
where traditions are cherished but innovation is embraced.
I love that.
And perhaps most importantly, it's a city that's working hard to create a more just and equitable future for all its residents.
Well said. It's a city that embraces its past while looking towards the future with a sense of hope and possibility.
Exactly. And that makes Minneapolis a city worth watching, a city that's writing its story with each passing day, a story that's full of heart grit and a deep-seated belief in the power of community.
I love that. And I think that's the perfect note to end this part of our deep dive.
But there's still so much more to explore.
There is. We haven't even touched on the unique personalities of Minneapolis's many neighborhoods,
We have it.
each with its own story to tell and its own contributions to the city's vibrant tapestry.
You're right. There's a whole other layer of Minneapolis waiting to be uncovered. Stay tuned, dear listener, as we venture into the heart of the city's neighborhoods, discovering the hidden gems, the local hangouts, and the community spirit that make Minneapolis so special.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've journeyed through Minneapolis's history, explored its landmarks, and even uncovered the hidden stories behind its street names.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But a city is more than just grand structures and historical facts.
Right.
It's the people, the neighborhoods, the local flavor that really make it come alive.
Absolutely. A city's heart beats in its neighborhoods, those unique pockets of community where people gather, traditions are kept alive, and stories are shared. And Minneapolis has such a rich tapestry of neighborhoods, each with its own distinct personality and charm.
Okay, I'm ready for a neighborhood adventure. Where should we start our exploration?
Let's start in Uptown, a vibrant and eclectic neighborhood known for its trendy boutiques, lively nightlife, and beautiful lakeside views.
Uptown, I've heard it's the place to be for shopping, dining, and people watching.
Yeah.
What makes it so unique?
Well, for one thing, Uptown sits right on the shores of Bleda Makaska, formerly known as Lake Calhoun.
Oh, right.
It's one of the most popular lakes in the chain of lakes system, offering stunning views, walking paths, and all sorts of opportunities for recreation.
So it's a neighborhood that blends urban energy with natural beauty.
Yeah, it really does.
I can already picture myself strolling along the lakeshore, sipping a latte and soaking up the vibe.
You've got Uptown is all about that vibrant, walkable lifestyle. You can spend the afternoon browsing those independent boutiques along Hennepin Avenue, grab a bite to eat at one of the many restaurants offering everything from global cuisine to classic comfort food, and then catch a live music show or a comedy act in the evening.
It sounds like a neighborhood that never sleeps. Now, beyond its lively atmosphere, what else makes Uptown stand out?
Uptown has a pretty interesting history. It was a center for the counterculture movement in the 1960s and 70s, and that spirit of creativity and individuality is still part of the neighborhood today. You'll find a mix of historic buildings, Art Deco architecture, and modern developments, all contributing to Uptown's unique charm.
It sounds like a neighborhood that's constantly evolving, but always remembers its roots. I'm getting a sense that Minneapolis is full of these unique pockets of history and culture, each neighborhood offering its own perspective on the city.
You're absolutely right. And to experience that diversity, let's head over to the Whittier neighborhood just south of downtown.
Whittier, I haven't heard as much about this neighborhood. What can you tell me about it?
Whittier is a neighborhood that's going through a bit of a revival right now.
Okay.
It's known for its beautiful historic homes, its thriving art scene, and its growing number of locally owned businesses.
So it's a bit more relaxed than Uptown, but still full of character and charm.
Exactly. Whittier has a more residential feel, but it's also a hub for creativity. You'll find art galleries showcasing local artists, music venues hosting everything from jazz to indie rock, and theaters putting on thought-provoking productions.
It sounds like a neighborhood that's building community through the arts. What else makes Whittier special?
One of the things that makes Whittier unique is its commitment to social justice and equity. It's a neighborhood that's been actively working to address issues like racial disparities and gentrification, making sure that all residents have the chance to thrive.
That's really inspiring. It's a reminder that a neighborhood can be a force for positive change,
Yeah.
working to make society more just and equitable. Okay, so we've explored Uptown and Whittier. I'm seeing how diverse Minneapolis neighborhoods are. But I'm curious about a neighborhood we haven't talked about yet, Downtown East. It's where a lot of the city's history happened, right?
You're right. Downtown East is the historical heart of Minneapolis. It's where you'll find those iconic landmarks like the Stone Arch Bridge, the Mill City Museum, and the Guthrie Theater. But it's also a neighborhood that's changing with new developments, restaurants, and entertainment venues popping up all the time.
So it's a mix of history and modernity all within walking distance of each other.
Exactly. You can spend the morning exploring the ruins of the Washburn and Mill at the Mill City Museum, grab lunch at a trendy new restaurant overlooking the Mississippi River, and then see a show at the Guthrie Theater in the evening.
It sounds like a neighborhood that offers a little bit of everything that makes Minneapolis special.
Hmm.
Now, I'm curious, what other hidden gems or local favorites would you recommend for someone who wants to experience the true essence of downtown East?
Well, you can't miss the Mill Ruins Park. It's a really unique green space built among the ruins of the old flour mills.
Oh, wow.
It gives you a fascinating look into the city's industrial past.
That sounds cool.
And for a truly local experience, I'd recommend checking out the farmers market that happens on weekends in the summer.
Okay.
It's a great place to try local produce, meet the farmers, and really feel that community atmosphere.
Those sound like fantastic additions to our Minneapolis itinerary.
They are.
Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into this amazing city,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you have any final thoughts or insights to share. We've explored so much about Minneapolis,
We have.
from its Dakota roots to its modern-day hustle and bustle, its struggles and its triumphs, its grand landmarks, and its hidden neighborhood gems.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. What's your main takeaway from all of this?
You know what really stands out to me about Minneapolis is that it's a city that's constantly pushing itself to be better. It acknowledges its past, embraces its present, and looks towards the future with a sense of hope and determination.
I love that. It's a city that's not afraid to face its complexities, to learn from its mistakes, and to work towards a more just and equitable future.
Exactly. And that spirit of self-reflection and progress is what makes Minneapolis so special. It's a city worth exploring, a city that's full of surprises, and a city that's always evolving and reinventing itself.
Well said. And for you, dear listener, we hope this deep dive has made you curious to experience Minneapolis for yourself. We encourage you to walk its streets, explore its neighborhoods, savor its food, and immerse yourself in its vibrant arts and culture scene. And as you do, remember the stories we've shared, the history we've uncovered, and the people who have made this city what it is. Until next time, happy exploring.